The iPad mini first came out in 2012, believe it or not, just when we got the 4th generation of the OG iPad. The iPad mini had a screen of just 7.9 inches, but the body was 7.87 inches tall and 5.3 inches wide. The OG iPad already had a 9.7 inch screen, and the body was about 9.5 inches tall by 7.31 inches wide. Comparing these two together, you can see there really isn't that much of a difference. But now, for comparison, let's take a look at the iPhone 4 and the iPad mini, so you can see there really isn't that much of a difference compared to what we're used to today. Keep in mind, it wasn't until 2014 where we started to see larger phones, as well as the iPads to the iPad Pro 12-inch in 2016. Now, it has been debated since the iPad came out, is it really just a consumption device? I do believe most of the people don't agree with that now, I being one of them, based on the fact that these things have gotten so powerful. I honestly don't recall many keyboard cases and things like that when the iPad first came out, but my opinion has definitely changed over the years. Now, I've done my fair share of videos showing how I use this as a production device these days, from accessories to editing to even how I use the pencil. Now, if you currently own an iPad mini, I want your feedback. What do you find so appealing about this device? Go ahead and leave a comment down below so we can talk about it. Now, I think Apple has done a great job pushing out of everyone's mind that this is just a consumption device. Also, keep in mind that there wasn't pencil support until the 2016 iPad Pro line. Now, that Pro line was one of the first to get it, and honestly, we didn't see any other device get it until 2 years later with the OG iPad 6th gen, which didn't get support till 2018. Now, the iPad mini and the Air didn't get support until 2019. At that point, we were on the 5th gen mini and we were on the 3rd gen iPad Air. Now, there are a couple other devices in the iPad Pro lineup that did get support, but then again, we're talking about the 11-inch and the 10.7. Those aren't even around anymore. So like I just mentioned, larger iPhones in 2014, larger iPads in 2016. These devices began to be able to do so much more, which is where I think the iPad mini started losing its place. The screen sizes are so big today, even putting the iPhone 13 Pro Max next to this iPad mini seems kind of funny. I mean, it practically takes up 3/4 of the screen, and it's just as powerful and fits in your pocket. Sort of. Some of the things that I think it lacks is in fact that it's too small, even for tasks like editing and email. Now, I don't like doing email on my phone, but the fact that I have an iPad Air 4th gen, which I can use a keyboard, or honestly, just sitting at my desk if I want to do a quick email reply. But to sit there and type up a whole email on the iPad mini, it's just not big enough, and the simple fact that there's no keyboard case to support this. Now, could there be options down the road where you have a case that fits the mini in there and it doesn't take up the whole thing, where you got a larger footprint to put a keyboard on there? That's actually not a bad idea, but you're still struggling with that tiny screen. My eyes aren't getting any better. Something else I noticed is the icons on the mini are the same size that they are on the iPhone. Now, my eyes are getting way worse when it comes to looking at screens, and I'm sure there's many people out there that don't have a problem, but when you start jacking up the size of the text on the screen, it doesn't really change the icons all that much, so it's not really helping. Now, on the good side, maybe artists will like drawing on this, taking notes in class, something along those lines where the pencil's gonna get some use. Now, let's move on over to the pricing of the iPad mini, which starts at $499 for just 64 gigabytes of space. And the screen has gotten a little larger at 8.3 inches compared to when it first came out at 7.9. Food for thought here, if you go with the 9th gen original iPad, that starts at $329 for 64 gigs of storage. But if you want to go larger storage at 128 gigs, that's going to be $479. You're still getting cheaper, and you have a 10.2 inch screen, keyboard support. You can turn it into more of a production device. Even if you don't want to go with the original iPad, but like the design with no button, okay, let's go ahead and talk about the iPad Air 4th gen. At just $100 more, $599 for the 64 gigs, you get the 10.9 inch screen again, and full support for keyboard and the Magic Keyboard if you want to dole the money out for it. Yes, it does cost a lot, but Apple has other solutions as well, and there's some awesome third-party solutions that I've actually been using that I think are absolutely awesome. So when you start comparing these prices to the iPad mini, that price for 64 gigs of storage, I just don't think it fits in Apple's lineup unless you like to keep it small small and don't really have a place to put it. But in my opinion, you're just wasting your money on it because you could have something larger in the iPad Air 4th generation with more power and more accessories. Now, there are some good reasons to pick up the iPad mini if price doesn't concern you. You can watch movies, play games, and consume whatever time-wasting social media platform you use. Now, I did talk to a friend that said they love the size of the mini for their 5-year-old because it's easy for them to hold. I showed this to my 9-year-old daughter who was excited to see it and thought it was too small to use. When it comes to that category, if it can be a production or a work device, I feel like the small number of things people could do on it isn't really worth the money for them either, especially if they have other things to do besides that one task. So if you haven't figured it out by now, if you were to ask me, I would say pass on it and go ahead and look at those other options. Now check out my extended thoughts on why I picked up that 4th gen iPad Air. Hit that sub button, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video.